Welcome to episode 16, War Room 2020. It is Thursday, February 27th, the year of our Lord 2020. We appreciate you sticking with us through some technical difficulties this morning, but we are live now. I have a feeling that the technology did not want to work until the great Jason Miller entered the room. As soon as he steps in to the basement here in the Breitbart Embassy, the historic, our very own skiff, everything just sprung back to life. We're also joined by a good friend of mine. Well, I don't like to admit it, Matthew Tiermand. What's your title now? Board member, Open the Books? What are you doing?
Board member, Project Veritas.
Project Veritas.
Books, European American political activist.
All the stuff
generic.
All the stuff you see from James O'Keefe and the Open the Books guys. There's Matt Tiermand skulking in the background somewhere, planning and plotting. We'll get more from him as the show goes on.
Description.
Yeah, I think that's right. At least that's how the ladies describe you, skulking in the background. Jason, we got to get onto the serious news immediately now. Especially, we lost a little bit of the show, so we'll plow through this right now. The Dow is down 654 points right now. More coronavirus fears infecting the markets. Goldman warning earnings growth will be entirely wiped out this year. The president gave a press conference about it last night. The escalation was very clear, taking the coronavirus situation and putting it in the hands of the vice president. That is basically as high up as you can get for something like this. Tell us a little bit more about that, a little bit more about what we're seeing in the markets this morning.
Absolutely. And I want to read a couple of quotes that Joe Scarborough gave on Morning Joe this morning, right off the top. Joe Scarborough came out and said, "The president in the briefing room with his team behind him sends a very clear message that he is on alert." Joe continued, "I think we're better off this morning because Donald Trump did what he did." And he also said, "I was very pleased and actually comforted that the president of the United States brought the entire healthcare team out and they talked to Americans about this very important situation." That's Joe Scarborough. And so I say that.
That's Mr. Hater.
Mr. Hater. And I say that to do kind of a level set because what President Trump did with his press conference last night, where he put Vice President Pence in charge of this, who is only the second most powerful person in all of government, number two person in our democracy. The goal there wasn't going to be some magical quick fix to the coronavirus, but what it shows is that the administration is putting this first and foremost. He had with him the CDC folks. He had with him NIH, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He had Secretary Azar. The goal there was to show that the administration is on it, to give some comfort to Americans that everyone is in government's doing everything they can to combat this, because we want to make sure that what's happening in China and other places do not happen here. I think President Trump accomplished that. Now, you're seeing obviously the market dip this morning. I shouldn't say dip. It's pretty, as I look up at the screen, it's down 716 right at this moment. Last night's press conference wasn't going to magically go and save that. You have other factors going in. You have this additional community contact case in California where someone who hadn't been traveling somehow contracted the coronavirus. That, in addition, you see some escalation in Japan. Shinzo Abe has closed schools for the entire month of March. So there's some pretty heady news that's out there. But again, as far as the day-to-day safety, should Americans feel like their government is working for them and President Trump is on it, I think the president successfully did that last night.
Matt.
A couple points I'd make. One, appointing Mike Pence to sort of run point on this is not a symbolic figurehead type move. This is a successful governor. He's got executive experience. He knows how to manage government at multiple levels. Indiana, after he followed Mitch Daniels, one of the most successful states, especially in the Rust Belt, in the country for the last 10, 15 years in terms of economic resurgence. Elect some Republicans and get the government working, and economic growth has come. And the rest of the Rust Belt's still catching up to Indiana, as Indiana has been a successful state. Another point I'd make about the market, keep in mind we're at historic highs. We're up 300 to 400% in a straight line. The biggest correction we've had in the last 4 years is not even a real correction. It was less than 20%. And we're down 10% from the highs in a few days while the global markets have to reprice the forward curve of earnings. I mean, earnings are going to take a hit from coronavirus. We have an interdependent global economy with China as the largest growth driver for the last 20 years. They're going to see negative growth for the first time in their modern history, which is going to have global GDP implications. America has been growing, will probably continue to grow, but it's going to take a hit in the market, which is not priced very cheaply. Stocks are trading 17, 18 times, which is a upper valuation sort of historical multiple. So this is all within reason. I don't know if I would agree with Kudlow and say it's a buying opportunity just yet. There has to be a repricing. But, this is a natural thing, and it's not, calamitous, and I don't think it's even going to have, Yet, this could change, big election implications.
Well, and I think that's a great point, Matthew. And I'd add to that, there's nowhere else in the world you're going to go and put your money. So really your options are have it in the U.S. Now you can say whether it's going to be in stocks or whether it's going to be in commodities or whether it's going to be in bonds or where exactly do you want to put it, or are you going to put it under your mattress? I mean, those are really your two options.
Or your digital mattress, right? People are talking about the cryptocurrency. Some people are talking about gold at the moment. But more or less the point remains. If you're investing somewhere, if you're keeping your money somewhere, in terms of geography, there is still no better place, and there won't be a better place than the United States of America.
Right, and that's because we have a very efficient, highly educated workforce. We have the rule of law, so contracts and things like that hold. And also, too, we're producers. And so we're doing a lot here. This is a place to be.
But to Matt's point, and we sort of had to truncate on this because we're squishing two segments into one here. For those that don't know, Jason does the show clock every day before the show, and he's very meticulous about what we hit and when. So I'm trying to squeeze that all in. Jason works very hard on it, and we're so grateful for it because goodness knows I'm not going to do it. Look, let's talk about the Bloomberg's ad that came out yesterday, right? He called his ad, and by the way, when we launched this show a month ago, and Steve K. Bannon's idea to launch the show, and we were talking about what were the names we were throwing out there, it was Contagion, and we settled on Pandemic, right? And people said to us, are you mad? Firstly, you don't know anything about viruses. Are you going to talk about coronavirus? It's not the point. The point is exactly what Matt said just now, and it pains me to say it. But the point is about the interdependence, the global economy, the reliance on China, the supply chains, the knock-on effects, everything like that. Bloomberg launches an ad called, what did he call it yesterday, Jason?
Pandemic.
Did he give us a hat tip?
I think so. Yeah, I got to say on that Bloomberg ad, for someone who worked with the city of New York in the aftermath of 9/11, I thought it was shameful that Mike Bloomberg was trying to capitalize on something like this, on this pandemic. It really rubbed me the wrong way. And look, he is someone who's invested a lot of money in Johns Hopkins University, like $300 million, some huge number. But it just felt like he was trying to make political hay out of this, and I just thought it was poor form.
But the opposition party, the Democratic Party, are not just politicizing this at the candidate level. It's being politicized at the legislative level as well. You see Chuck Schumer coming out and saying $2.5 billion. The president, we're going to get $8.5 billion. You know, we get into that level of just writing checks like that. You don't have a plan for that money. You're just trying to one up the president. You're just trying to show, hey, we're more interested in this than the president is. And it's just not true. But the president said yesterday, look, if they want to spend more money, we'll spend more money. So it's the first time I've been told that, hey, you can spend more. We're usually told we got to spend less, right?
Smart. Very smart to take off any notion of partisan bickering. I thought Donald Trump did exactly what he needed to at that press conference, making it clear. His only job, keep people safe.
Matt?
Bloomberg has to sell technocratic expertise. This is a very savvy strategy on his part. He needs to make a dichotomy between him and Trump. Trump's emotional. Trump is really playing to the base, and it's a new base. It's an expanded base, thanks to a lot of the work that you and Steve have done. It's Rust Belt Union Dems. Bloomberg has to be the absolute antithesis of that if he's going to have any shot, because he's not going to beat Trump.
And sources are saying, and we're going to look into this on the break now, it's not come out yet, but there are some shifts in personnel, some other shifts in personnel that are taking place today who are being brought in to augment the coronavirus watch team. So we're going to be bringing you more information on that as we have it. And of course, you have War Room Pandemic up next after this show. The hashtag is #WarRoom2020 to engage with the show. We're grateful that so many people jumped in early on and said, where are you guys this morning? We feel the love. We're working very hard to bring you the show live every morning. Sometimes things don't go quite right. We'll make it up to you. We'll be right back after this break.
War Room 2020 with Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, and Raheem Kassam. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. Episode 16, War Room 2020. Raheem Kassam here, filling in for Stephen K. Bannon, who will be live with you for War Room Pandemic in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. So much to unpack from the press conference yesterday, what the markets are doing today. You're going to want to stay tuned. Got Jason Miller. If Donald Trump was the comeback king after the Billy Bush weekend and all of that, then surely Jason Miller is nothing less than a prince among men. The comeback prince, Jason Miller, in studio with us this morning, and Matthew Tiermand, one of my oldest friends in the United States, somebody who didn't turn his back on me when I was just a pauper with I had the stick on and all my belongings wrapped in a little handkerchief, and I came to this country. Matthew Tiermand, he took me in to his...
You're such an easy roommate. You're so neat and organized.
He took me in. He's looked after me. So this is my payback, having him on the show. You're welcome,
Sweet
Matthew. This is all you're getting out of me. I want to jump to the latest coming out of South Carolina now. We're on the back of the debates the other day. I think we all agree that, look, Joe Biden, the bottom didn't fall out, right? It was pretty steady. Apart from saying 150 million Americans had died from gun-related crimes, he had a pretty stable debate. That seems to be borne out in the polling, right, Jason?
Yeah, and we've seen a number of polls come out just in the last day or so. Monmouth has something out this morning saying Joe Biden 36, Bernie 16, Steyer 15. Then we have a couple others. The East Carolina poll has it Biden 31, Sanders 23, Steyer 20. And then Clemson has it Biden 35, Steyer 17, Sanders 13. So it seems to be Biden way out in front in South Carolina, then Sanders and Steyer bunched together and everyone else back in single digits, which makes it look like Joe Biden's going to get himself his first win in pretty convincing fashion on Saturday, 3 days before Super Tuesday, all at the same time that Mike Bloomberg is really hitting the skids and is getting some bad polling news.
So we saw a tightening of that race in South Carolina a little bit, and now it seems to be widening again. What do we put that down to?
Look, I think a lot of it is Bernie and Bloomberg mixing it up in that debate and punching each other. I think it's also Joe Biden getting that Clyburn endorsement, the Jim Clyburn endorsement, which is a big deal. African-American lawmaker, a member of Congress. I believe he's the number 3 ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives. He has a lot of juice, and he has an actual voting machine that when he says, hey, we got to go and turn people out, they turn people out. And look, Joe Biden did himself some favors in that debate. I referenced this yesterday's show. But when he talked about making sure his first Supreme Court pick would be an African American woman, that was a very smart play. I mean, that was smart of him to do. And he does have a history of doing a lot for the African American community, and obviously it's a state that has a big African American population. So I think Joe Biden did himself a lot of favors, but the trajectory of this race still remains. This looks to be Bernie's to win on Super Tuesday. Biden could actually get a bump in a couple of these places. I mean, Biden might finish ahead of Bloomberg.
As a result of the South Carolina victory, he'll get a further bump.
And because of the debate, and because look, the polling is out saying that a third of all Democratic primary voters...
Is he raising any more money? He's cash poor. His campaign's cash poor. Is he raising any more money? And will he raise money on the back of this victory on Saturday?
Not enough to really make it that big of a difference. But look, here's the thing. If it's Joe Biden against Bernie Sanders at a convention battle, I could see Democrat superdelegates going and saying, let's go and steal this one for Joe. I don't know if I see them saying, let's go steal this for Bloomberg.
Matt, is that the dream Trump campaign scenario, is that Joe Biden manages to eke this out at a contested convention?
I think that's absolutely if Bernie has it stolen from him when he actually has the popular mandate delivered en masse across the country, and it's stolen from him in a brokered convention, then Trump will win the popular vote. They will stay home.
Jason, what's happening with Bloomberg?
So Bloomberg, they haven't been able to right this ship. And again, we talked about Bloomberg's inability to change. He tried to be funny, tried to work some different things into the debate. You don't change 78-year-old billionaires. They are who they are. And their lack of preparation on this, the fact they never took him out and did any test runs, never did the town halls, those types of things. I mean, this poll in California just came out. Disastrous. Sanders at 37, Warren at 20, Biden at 12, Mayor Pete at 11. California's a third of all delegates being awarded on Super Tuesday. And keep in mind, in these individual congressional districts, if you don't hit 15, you don't get anything. And so Bloomberg, there'll be some districts he's over 15, but he could largely get skunked.
And he spent, $50 million there in California alone?
It's some unholy number in his overall spending. Keep in mind, it's the most expensive or most spend on a presidential race in history. He's over $500 million.
Matt, we'll get your thoughts on this and more after the break. There's a lot going on out there. We want you to engage. Hashtag War Room 2020 is the hashtag. Warroom.org is the URL. Go there, sign up for the podcast, the newsletter. We'll keep you informed on everything going on. The most important race in modern history. We'll be right back.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassan.
We're back. War Room 2020. Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam, and Matthew Tiermand in studio with us here on Capitol Hill. New Granite State poll just came out, guys. And interestingly enough, there are these outliers that pop up from time to time, and they bear mentioning because sometimes, as we know, the polling industry gets it wrong and the outliers get it right. We saw that with Brexit. We saw that with the election of President Trump. Okay, so Trump versus potential Democratic opponents. The president draws with Bernie Sanders, 46-46. He beats Joe Biden, 46-44. And he absolutely trounces Michael Bloomberg, 47-33. The only one that comes on top of the president in the poll is Pete Buttigieg, who takes 48 to 42% in the Granite State poll that came out today. It's a swing state poll. Not sure how much we make of that, but interesting nonetheless. I think these things are worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a new Pennsylvania poll out today with head-to-head general election matchups, and it has the only Democratic candidate narrowly ahead of President Trump is Sanders, but it shows that President Trump beating Biden, taking it to Bloomberg, and I think these are a couple of polls in a row where Bloomberg, in addition to his value proposition being his checkbook, it was also that he could win in the general. He could pull over these moderate Republicans. A number of general election polls now showing that just the bloom is off of Bloomberg.
Jason, can you tell us a little bit about what the president's plan is, what the Trump campaign's plan is to capture more African-American voters this time around?
Yeah, so look, I think what the president's campaign has been doing this early in the game, I think has been pretty smart with a number of these rallies, stepping on the Democrats' momentum, getting into the news cycle. The president's in Charleston, South Carolina tomorrow, where South Carolina, obviously a pretty red state, but that first district.
He is stalking them around the country like he stalked Hillary Clinton around that debate stage.
I prefer the word Bigfoot. I like Bigfoot. He is just saying, I'm the president and I have the biggest foot of them all.
I don't mean it in a pejorative sense. I mean it in that's the the definition of the word.
But look, it's smart. No one's ever done this before to go and say, actually, you know what? That's our primary. We're gonna dominate your primary and make sure that we're in there just as much. But the president's then in Charlotte, North Carolina, then on Monday, just before Super Tuesday. And it's my understanding that from what I'm hearing, that you're going to see the president start making a lot more congressional district appearances, some of these dirty 30 districts, and start going in there, start putting his thumb on there. Here's the thing. The president and the White House and the campaign really get it. They know that we have to get the House back, and they're going to do it. But there's a couple articles out this morning. Both Jared and Brad Parscale had a number of reporters over, and they talked with a number of their African-American coalition together, and they were talking about how they were going to start opening up offices in urban areas and in black communities. I think this is so smart because keep in mind, President Trump got 8% of the black vote back in 2016, which was 3 points higher than Mitt Romney got 4 years before. There are a lot of polls that have been coming back showing President Trump can get upwards of 15, 20, 25%. And just so we're clear, if President Trump, let's say he got 11 or 12% of the African-American vote as opposed to 8, like that's game over in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. That is a seismic shift because here's the thing. When we start getting into the teens or maybe even near 20%, which isn't completely unheard of, that makes it so Democrats can't just say, any African-American that they turn out to vote is a guaranteed vote for them. Then they have to actually go and say, well, shoot, might they be Trump supporters?
Matt, you got to jump in here. Nobody's going to call on you. You got to. This is the war room.
Very aggressive place. Florida also 12% African American vote. Florida, fourth biggest state in the country. It really does make a difference. Look, economics matters. Black America on a relative basis over the last couple of presidential cycles is doing better. Joblessness is down. Household income, wages are moving up. Manufacturing's coming back. Trump is an economic nationalist and populist, and that has broken the left-right divide. So for the Democratic Party and the American left to say the black vote is ours, Trump is proving them wrong right now.
Economic nationalism doesn't care about the color of your skin, right?
Correct.
There is no the whole racial charge behind, from the media and the Democrats against the president. He's going to confound that all at the next election. I mean, Brad Pascal is saying in the Wall Street Journal, at minimum, we're double from where we were in 2016. The Wall Street Journal notes that the message back then was, remember, from candidate Trump, what the hell do you have to lose? This time, he'll be able to not just run on that and say, look, these guys have treated you so bad for so long, but also, here's what we've done for you. And there are tangibles. There are distinct tangibles out there that the president and the president's team are going to be able to point to. I think Brad Pascal's being conservative with that estimate. It's going to be more than double than where they were last time, right?
There have been some polls that they've had internally that I know have shown the numbers even in the high 20s, maybe even certain areas of the country as high as 30%, particularly with African-American men. But look, this movement is real. And when you think about the general election matchup, Bernie Sanders does not have a message to take to African-American voters to say, I am your guy. He just doesn't. President Trump has a much better message of delivering.
Bloomberg doesn't do so well with African-American voters either. They know his history in New York.
African-American voters didn't do so well with Mayor Bloomberg.
That's correct.
Can he ask for their vote while he's stopping and frisking them?
Yes, exactly. No, he can absolutely. He can take the ballot papers from them.
Well, that was an old Democratic tactic in the South.
Well, you're from New York City-ish, right? I mean, you live there now. You're from Chicago originally.
From the Chicago area originally, but yeah.
But you're in the thing. What are people talking about this there about the Bloomberg, about the stop and frisk?
It was talked about in New York during his mayoralty regularly. Bloomberg's not well liked in New York. I mean, people forget this is a guy who, to get a third term, had to bribe the city council for them to overturn it one time.
How did it sit with you, that pandemic advert he puts out, and he starts by basically saying, I cleaned up New York and I resurrected New York after 9/11. How does that sit with you?
Well, let's be honest. Giuliani did a great job post-Dinkins cleaning up New York. But Bloomberg was a good steward of New York. But people got fatigued with him. Here he was 2 terms. He was an effective mayor. If he would have rode off into the sunset, he might have had a better historical image. Purchasing the 3rd term and then focusing on quality of life, his quote-unquote quality of life issues, sodas, what you can drink, nanny states, smoking in parks, people getting tickets for smoking in parks. Yeah, that was totally him. He was war smoke.
Wow. Now you got Raheem's attention.
No, listen to me. I was in Bryant Park in Midtown Manhattan once upon a time. I was due to meet with the host of the show, Stephen K. Bannon, and I'm waiting, right? And I'm sitting in the park and I'm waiting, and I light up a cigarette, much to the chagrin of much of the audience out there. I apologize, but I light up a cigarette. This guy comes up to me. He's like, you can't smoke here. And I said, excuse me? He goes, you can't smoke it. I said, I'm not from here. I didn't know that. Why? It's a public space. What are you talking about? He goes, there are signs everywhere. I looked all around me, not a single sign. He was like, you better put that out right now. I said, no, I'm going to walk out of the park and finish it. Thank you very much. But this was unheard of to me. I mean, especially coming from Europe, everybody smokes everywhere, right? But that was Bloomberg?
That was Bloomberg.
Wow, he's not getting my vote now. Yeah. I'll tell you that much. All right, we're going to be back in just a moment. There's some really important stuff going on out there with the Pfizer reform and the renewal of all of that, the Christopher Steele stuff. We want to get into all of that as well. Matthew, going to let you riff a little bit on what you guys are doing at Open the Books and the budget stuff too. War Room 2020, Jason Miller, Matthew Tiermand, Raheem Kassam. Be right back with you after this break.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassam.
Joe on Twitter using the hashtag WarRoom2020 says, it doesn't matter if Biden gets ahead in South Carolina. He is not getting anywhere near that nomination. He can hardly keep it together through the debates. He is incapable of being a president. He should have never entered this race. We love your feedback here. Hashtag WarRoom2020. Matthew, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing at Open the Books.
Well, usually politicians, executive and legislative branch, they like to spend more money. Well, Trump just put in his budget released last week, obviously not through the legislature yet, that there are areas to cut waste. This is a rarity from a politician. So this is something he ran on, and now they are going to try and follow through on it in 3 areas they've suggested. The $700 billion in federal grants, things like $1.5 million to HHS for sex education for California prostitutes. I mean, that's seems a little odd. Mistaken payments, Social Security paying out to people who are over 112 years old. There's 40 112-year-olds left in the world, so that math doesn't work. And then the use it or lose it spending spree, where government agencies spend as much as they can in the last few weeks of their fiscal year so that they don't get a budget cycle downgrade and appropriations next time.
And where can people find out more about that?
OpenTheBooks.com.
Jason, what's the other big fight that people are talking about here?
Yeah, FISA reform, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. To give you a quick background, came into play in 1978, essentially allows law enforcement to go and monitor folks who are from other countries and are here that might be up to terrorist activity, things like that. Everyone remembers the Patriot Act that came into play October 2001 following the horrific terrorist attacks at 9/11. We've had various parts of that have been sunsetted or reauthorized or extended. Now we have a thing called the USA Freedom Act, which is basically kind of the remnants of these things. 3 provisions expire March 15th here. One is a lone wolf surveillance aspect, which isn't really controversial. It means if you have someone who's split off, they're not part of a broader cell, you can still stay on them. The other one is roving wiretaps, which I think make a lot of sense. If you have someone, you have a warrant to be able to go and monitor them, then whether they switch devices, do things, makes a lot of sense. But the other one is the Section 215. What is Section 215? Wouldn't expect anyone to know. This is that bulk data collection, whether it's cell phone records, whether it's text metadata. And what it leads to is this thing called contact chaining. This person calls this person, then all of their calls. On 2018, out of 50 targets, is somehow led to the government getting 19 million records because it's just the exponential of everyone they talk to. Attorney General Barr went up to the Hill this week, told senators just reauthorize these 3 and keep going. I said at the time, I think the president's going to reform this. Senator Mike Lee from Utah was saying, no, we need to take on some of the broader FISA reforms. We saw Carter Page and others brought into, even those aren't expiring. We need to deal with it at one time. Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, Rand Paul have all jumped on this. President now saying we're going to go and reform some of this. This is good. I think this is good that they're going to do it. It needs to be. It's overdue. We have to reform this Section 215, need broader FISA reform so innocent Americans are not spied on. This is a strong move.
Yeah, and frankly, we've seen what intelligence agencies do when you give them too much power, and we've seen that the implications electorally across the globe. We've got about 10 seconds, Matthew.
Remember the old game, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
You can get everybody in America with a lot less than 6 degrees.
Wow. Matthew Tierman, Open the Books, and Jason Miller. I've been Raheem Kassam. We're going to be on War Room Pandemic next with Stephen K. Bannon live from New York. Stay tuned. This has been War Room 2020. We'll be back with Pandemic in just a moment.